My name's Rob Ryder. Um, this video, normally I think for like a minute or two before I do a video, just to plan what I'm going to say. This is probably going to be me rambling a little bit regarding the monetary system. So if anyone looks at my videos, I only really hit two subjects, the monetary system and the human condition, to have a better understanding of health. So a lot of my videos now on the monetary system, it's all there if you go back through my videos. I got involved again in this monetary issue after the 2008 financial crash. I wasn't happy with what I was being told. I always knew through traveling there was an enormous corporate influence in the world, but I was stuck there. But then 2009, I started looking into money creation. I found some information in money creation, and all this whole global agenda just blew up in my face within, a week or two. The whole lot just blew up in my face, and I absorbed it so quick, and your worldview is never the same again. And round about that time, maybe late 2009, 2010, I'm thinking, right, researching more and more, and I found that the UK column with Justin Walker were pushing what is known as the Bradbury Pound campaign, which is a form of national credit from the Treasury, so we don't need to go into debt as a nation. So I was supporting that campaign for quite a few years. That was a great campaign, but as I've learned more and more about economics and money, it didn't go into the details of a solution really enough for me. And then that campaign kind of faded. The UK column I support the UK column. There's my hoodie there. They've kind of got sidetracked with Ukraine, the lockdown, digital ID, all that, and they've lost their focus a bit on national credit. I think that needs to come back. Justin Walker's, I know he's still doing his bit behind the scenes, but it needs to be pushed out again back into the mainstream. Neil Oliver's mentioned banks creating money, but there's nobody out there at all. Richard Werner's fairly close, The Economist. I don't know anybody really putting a solution forward that challenges the whole system apart from myself in the book. And the reason being is I've gone to the foundation. I'm not trying to plaster up the walls and fix the roof. I've gone right to the foundation to understand that everything's free and you build from there, and nobody else is doing that. And this is why we're getting nowhere. There needs to be, it's not going to be me, because I'm not interested in putting my face out there as a leader of any campaign. I haven't got the time anyway. I'm a debt slave as well. And I'm not into this ego driven, we've all got an ego, as I said before, but I'm not interested in being, look at me, how clever I am. If you think I'm a smart ass because I say I've got the solution that nobody else has, and that's fair enough. But this is ego awareness. I'm not ego driven. I don't want to be the front of any campaign. But I've been trying to get this information out for free. I don't know anybody who's broken it down as I have and built up an actual working solution. I've been doing this for years now. The problem is you talk to people listen, but they get stuck in what I call the economics of a banking mafia, which is the subtitle to the book. And they're still stuck there. They jump out of the foundation, get stuck trying to fix the roof and plaster the walls, and they forget your foundation's rotten. Don't matter how many times you talk to people about money creation, they'll watch an economics program and tell them, oh, it's complicated, inflation and blah, 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 and this, and they'll get lost in all this complicated investment talk. That's all the nonsense we need to get rid of. You don't have to worry too much about that. I never actually studied much in what I call the economics of a banking mafia. Not at all. I just studied money creation and what money is and how can it be used. How is it used against us? How can we use it for us? It was only till a year ago when something told me, should I say, I was being pushed to watch The Big Short again when I found this 75 trillion money printing scam, which is part of the economics of a banking mafia. And it shows you why debt not only is used to enslave us, but it's used basic for them to print money. So that was my delve into the economics of a banking mafia, which I've never been interested in. And this is why I've never supported Bitcoin, gold as solutions at all. You're just playing with illusions, if you ask me. I'm not interested in that. So I put a workable solution that I thought people could get a handle on it. It's not that complicated. If you break it down, you'd have to go back to my videos again to break it all down. Now, of course, this has never been done. If it was to put into practice, you might want to iron a few things out, make a few tweaks. But I've also took into account the human condition. When you go back to everything's free, why do we have currency then? Not money. Money and currency, as I've said, is a slightly different thing. Why do you have it? Well, people comes down to two things: competition versus cooperation. And that's what in the book with Patrick, the other book, Conscious Humanity, you can build a system on cooperation. It doesn't have to be competition. And any elite athlete will tell you the only real competition is within yourself. If it's Usyk has used Tyson Fury to become the best Usyk, he was really competing with himself. You got Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and even Andy Murray that pushed him up. They were competing with each other, but in reality, they were competing with themselves. But the whole economic system is driven by competition, by greed, and by the accumulation of wealth, and for us to become better than them. The whole system is built on that. Now, the whole system is built on that, but the psychology of people is built on that as well. So my solution is almost irrelevant unless the psychology and the mindset of people change. It'll never manifest into life because I'm putting forward a just system. Now, I tried to put forward a solution that incorporates our need to want to progress, and because that's what pushes humanity forward, challenges a form of competition, but really you're competing with yourself. They want to see benefits, material things. This is the stage we're at. So my monetary system is, if I'm going to live in a society, I want the benefits of that society, which is I want to own the infrastructure and the resources of that society. That's why all infrastructure resources all have to be nationalized. Now, people might think, oh, I'm a leftist, socialist, communist, whatever. No. If I'm going to be forced to live in a society, then the resources should belong to me and be used for me. Venezuela at the moment is nothing to do with the failings of socialism. Nothing at all. It's a fight over the oil. Simple as that. Simple as that. It's the CIA have been in there for 20 years and it's a fight over the oil. All it's about. Because resources, when used properly, can be used for and benefit the people. If you're going to privatize everything, then at least give me the choice to opt out of that society. Because where's the benefit to me? I'm going to pay to give everything away, But if we're going to be part of a society, all the resources and the infrastructure should be owned by the people and used for the people. That isn't socialism, because on top of that, I say get rid of the nanny state completely and build a credit-based monetary system that pushes private enterprise. And again, I'm not saying we should get rid of banks and have one state bank. That would be too much control. No, have more and more, like Richard Werner, the economist, says, we want more and more banks. Now, banks are businesses, they have to make money. My solution to the interest, which is what creates the debt slavery, is an upfront service fee, which comes out of the existing monetary pool. So when credit extended, it's equal to the debt. At the moment, we've got something like $320 trillion worth of debt in the world and only $120 trillion of actual currency because of the interest. Nobody's talking about this. Well, at least in the political realm. Nobody's talking about this. The other solution, which again nobody's talking about, everyone talks about the economics of a banking mafia, which is all these hedge funds, BlackRock, blah blah blah, Vanguard, buying up the world. Stop letting them. Dead easy. Destroy international corporations, the idea of it. Why should a company from France, whoever, be able to buy a contract to maybe to take my bins away here? What's that all about? Yeah. This is the global system. It's creating interdependency. It's the end of the nation state. So now I'm starting to talk like a far right Nazi. Yeah? So I actually we need to bring back the nation state. And on the other hand, I'm talking about a form of socialism, as in the resources. You know, you get these morons accusing me of a Nazi. This is nothing to do with politics. Nazi Germany, communist Russia, all murdered millions of people. These were ideologies. It's not always the politics of what you believe in, it's the mindset and the intention behind it. You could say it's a form of socialism, that I want to nationalize everything. You could think that we need to bring back the nation state, the independent nation state making its own rules up. That's a form of far right. It's not nothing to do with that. You could think I want to destroy international corporations is a kind of a communist type thing. No, it's the international corporations that are going around the world buying everything up. Just stop it overnight. It's very simple. Only a company that is born out of and trades in England should be able to take contracts up in England, and they shouldn't be able to go in other countries buying up land and resources. That the maximum corruption you've got to deal with is at least in your own nation state. I've said for many years, slavery was never abolished by the British. It was rebranded as free trade and globalism. Look at the Indian East India Tea Company, for example. And you have the woke left who say, oh, the British Empire, it's white privilege, it's the British people that are to blame for that. No, it wasn't. It was the big corporations, the City of London. You have to separate British companies, the City of London, and the British people. British people had nothing to do with slavery. It was the British politicians and the City of London. So there's all this mix up in thinking. Oh, it must be far right, or it must be far left, or now he's supporting this and now he's supporting that. It's just an absolute mess. There's no coherent movement that challenges the monetary system anywhere. You've got David Icke saying credit is money, that banks create credit and it's money that doesn't exist, never has existed, never will exist. Complete utter nonsense. Doesn't even make sense at all. Because how can I buy a car or a house or a holiday on credit if it doesn't exist? That doesn't make sense. Not coherent. You've got people saying, oh, banks have created money out of thin air off my promissory note, therefore I don't have to pay it back because I created the money. It's credit. It's not real currency. You have to pay it back. People genuinely have no idea what they're talking about. Literally, I'm flabbergasted, considering in 2008 I was completely confused about the financial crash, only that I knew I was being lied to. And I'm self-taught, and how many 15 years later people are still talking the same rubbish. Oh, banks create money out of thin air to enslave. Yeah, it's a lot more than that. A lot more than that. And there's no coherent solution. So then you get people like Gary's Economics coming on board, this populist message, so people don't have to think tax the rich, although as though that's the problem. There's so many. The legal tax system was created to make rich people very, very rich. It was created that way. It's not an accident. That's how it's created. And as I've seen, we shouldn't be taxed on anything. The maximum you would need a tax for is just to control the amount of currency in circulation so you don't get credit. So when you pump 100 million into the economy to build a new road and a hospital and whatever, once that has been completed, there has to be a mechanism to draw that money back out of circulation so it doesn't cause inflation, or it needs to carry on reinvesting in more production. And again, it's simple. You pump money into assets, you get an asset bubble. You pump money into consumerism, you get inflation. You pump new money into production, you get stability. So nobody's talking about the whole of the banking system and the elite system is run on debt, because debt is tax-free income. You're not taxed on a loan. So there, for example, they'll buy a house or a block of flats on a mortgage, say buy a big block of flats, 10 million. They won't put the money down, they'll get a loan for that. They'll then get the tenants to pay for it. Their whole system is accumulating wealth via debt, because debt is tax-free. And because they never sell the assets, they're never paying tax on it, because it's all about accumulating assets. They've got a big tax bill at the end of the line, but they'll never get there because they're never going to sell. They want to accumulate assets. That's all it's about, and it's all done via debt, creating debt. All the big people are in debt. And what's happening through people like Brian Rose at London Real, you've got Andrew Tate, you've got Samuel Leeds, Rob Moore, all these people, entrepreneurs, they're encouraging that system. They're encouraging, in part it's an attitude, if you can't beat them, join them. But they're pushing themselves out of people of the people, men of the people. This obsession with buying houses for businesses has created massive rent increases. All your investments, oh, look at the size of my portfolio, yeah, it's creating slavery around the world. These aren't men of the people. People are falling for it. Why are people falling for it? Because they're ignorant of actually how the monetary system world works. Money does make the world go around, and it never surprises me how people don't even know the basics. Mind-boggling. You know, I'm self-taught from scratch, and I'm having conversations with people, even people who work in investment banks, haven't even got a clue how the system works, or other people who've been looking at the global conspiracy and their limitation of the monetary system is banks create money out of thin air, or it's the interest, or it's BlackRock. Yeah, but how they're doing it, or but it's BlackRock. There's no coherent understanding. The closest we've ever come was the UK column with Justin Walker pushing the Bradbury Pound campaign. And even then, for me, that didn't go far enough. You have to have a system that is a fair play system for everyone, that stops monopolies taking over resources. All the resources belong to the people. You get the just rewards for your efforts, which means people, not just companies, human beings have to be allowed to fail. In a debt-free society like I'm pushing forward, we can afford, to take resources to help the needy, the weak, the disabled, etc. It can't uphold a nanny state of people who are lazy and don't want to work, because in my economy, if you have the imagination, the resources, the willingness, you have a product, you have a service, you can offer something, the money will be there to back it up. As I've just said repeatedly, the currency should come into circulation to back up the productivity. It shouldn't dictate if that productivity can happen. This is what's happening now. The currency dictates whatever happened and what can't happen. It should be the other way around, because the productivity is free. Yeah? And that then breaks the illusion that we don't even need currency. But then if you diversify the system, people should be free to barter. People should be just free to give freely. And people, if they want currency and gain wealth and a storage of wealth, it's just a token. That's all you need. But it's the mindset also of the people that has to change. I was in, when we lived in the Peruvian Amazon many years ago, we went downstream to visit a village. Now, along the Amazon, they'll have these kind of corporate tribal villages where you'll probably spend $100. You'll go for the day and they'll put on like a tribal show and this and that, but it's all corporatized. We went to a village one day and there was a little lad just wandered about the villages, completely safe out there. It's quite incredible. You'll be walking path to path. Each village is connected by a path along the Amazon. You're walking along the path on your own and you'll see two blokes in the distance with a couple of machetes over their shoulders. It doesn't instill fear in you at all, seeing two blokes walking towards you with machetes. It's just a completely different way of life at all. But anyway, we was in one village and a young lad, he must have been about 10, come over, dead relaxed, calm. Oh, there's some tribal people that live half a mile outside the village in the woods if you want to come and wander. So I thought, we went, me, my wife, my daughter. I'll be a bit more, my brother-in-law, a bit more authentic experience than $100 a day. And this is going back 20 years, whatever. $100 a day, fake tribal experience. So we was just in a working village. This young lad wandering outside the village through the woods, the jungle. We come to this little traditional roundhouse type thing, not massive, but reasonable size. There was about maybe 15, 20 people there dressed in traditional dress, should we say. And it wasn't a corporate tribal people. These are probably people that were tribal people that were kind of coming into the modern-ish world, should we say. These are just working villages along the Amazon. And maybe at the edge of it. And probably the boy got a deal, if he can bring a couple of people who are passing and they can make a couple of quid, he'll get a couple of quid. Anyway, they offered us to do a dance. We didn't want it. We were just interested in where they lived and what it was like there. And we're looking at the instruments. You buy the blow pipes and things like that. So I thought, oh, well, we've come all this way. It'd be nice to buy a couple of blow pipes and whatever the craft they've made. But what I found really interesting was we asked, does this money go into a community pot for this small community? The answer was no. They sold them individually and they got individual, but it was their money. I found that quite surprising. Now, there's an island, I can't think of the name. I think it's got a Portuguese name. It's somewhere in between Africa and South America in the Atlantic. You look it up, you find it. There's about 250 inhabitants. It's been inhabited for about maybe a couple of hundred years or so. And they've survived. They don't have a currency on the island. So they're a small island, so they can't grow massively, but about 250 people, they have no currency. They've all got the home, the little plot of land where they'll grow a bit of food, maybe have some sheep or whatever, and they're all just interact and share. That's all. There is no currency. They might do an exchange, or your potatoes for my tomatoes, whatever, but there's no debt because there's no currency. And what they do have is good fishing waters, and I think there's another resource or craft they've got that they can sell to the outside world. And that money gets funded, gets pooled, and then they can buy with, whether it's $1 or whatever, they can buy things that their community need, whether it's building materials, equipment, engine for a boat or whatever. So this is a community that you could say the communist utopia. There is no money. There's no crime. There's no government. There's just a group of people who, through the trading of the fishing, any money that comes in that they've sold, and because it's a small community, they can all decide reasonably what we need. We need new roofing material. We need some doors. We need a new engine for the boat. And it works. They've gone around. So there's a moral instinct, and there's what is actually are you looking for? Are you looking for a better monetary system so you pay less tax? Or are you looking for actually a fair monetary system for everybody, where it's an even field and you can't go exploiting other people. The whole of investment banking, the whole of trade as it's done in the modern world is done exploitation. And we're being encouraged as people to want to be a part of that. I've got my I haven't got investments, but people say I've got my investments, I've got my pension, I've got my ISA. It's making money on money. Nobody's thinking, well, who am I taking that money off? Who's working to create that money? And then I'm taking it. The whole of Africa, a lot of Latin America, parts of Asia have been and continue to be held back because of exploitation. Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, it's all about exploitation. The World Bank, the IMF go in, give them loans, they have to privatize. With them loans, they help build infrastructure. Yeah, who uses the infrastructure? The corporate companies that come in so they can get all the products out. Where the products are from the land that they bought. It's all one big scam. Depending on what figures you use, it's something like every dollar of aid goes into Africa, $10 go out. It's a corporate system. And people criticize African people, African culture, sub-Saharan African people and culture. Look at the culture, look at the state of the cities. Look at how they live. Well, they live that way because of corporate exploitation. Not white people, not privileged people, corporate people who are beyond nations. You'd have to go back to my other video. These are beyond nations. That's why Africa can't progress, because of exploitation. Problem is, there are people in the West, your Andrew Tates and your Samuel Leeds and all these kind of people, entrepreneurs, who get rich via exploitation. When you're creating houses for business instead of homes, when rents are skyrocketing, people can't afford it, we've got homeless, you're part of the problem. Who knows how Andrew Tate makes his money? He's been given the go ahead to make a lot of money. How they manipulate currencies. That's why all African currencies have no value, because they don't own their own resources. That's why it's devalued. They can't get by, and these people like George Soros make fortunes on currency. They know what's going on. So if there's going to be a coherent, should we say, movement towards a change in the monetary system, people have to have at least a clue what they're talking about. Because I find pretty much everybody, once you go past banks create money out of thin air, they're lost. They have no idea, and believe me, I'm far from an expert. I'm self-taught. But I don't know anyone who's talking about what I'm talking about. Richard Werner, the economist, does know what he's talking about. If I could implement my monetary solution, he'd be the first guy I'd get in to iron out all the details. But I don't know. There's no coherent movement. It's just people complaining. Oh, I want more. Stop taxing me. Oh, the inflation. Yeah. What's your solution? You've got to give them a solution which highlights the fact that they're creating the problem. Just complaining doesn't do anything. And there's no coherent movement whatsoever in the so-called conspiracy world. There's nothing. People just complaining about the cost of living, and the bankers run the world. Yeah, but how do they do it? How are you going to stop it? But again, like I said, there has to be a different mindset behind it. Yeah, it's not just about me. We have to create, with my monetary solution, I'm kind of a realist. This is where we are. You nationalize everything, you ban international corporations, but then you get rid of the nanny state completely. And then it's kind of every man from themselves. But you've built a system that encourages people to produce, to be productive, because you get the rewards for it without the debt. The debt, when you create money, is only the work. Yeah, that's it. So it's a positive debt, in my opinion, because you're actually creating an economy. And it's a fair system. It's where humanity is. We're a long way off from the communist utopia. And this push towards socialism via these communist, so-called communist governments, China, Russia, whatever, have killed tens, if not hundreds of millions of people, because you have to enforce it on people. Now, this little island in the middle of the Atlantic, I'm not going to say it's a communist utopia. I'm just saying they live a simple community working together. They have their own little patches of land, but they've got no currency. The only currency they've got is what they bring in when they trade, and they use that for the community. They're doing well. Change of mindset is needed. Look at the Amish. You look at the Amish, they're thriving, and that despite a lot of pressure attacking them financially, they're thriving because they work together as a community via cooperation. Yeah. Patrick's idea in his Quantic Society is that to take debt out completely out of all exchanges. So even in bartering, if there's an exchange to be made, it's made there and then. It's not like, oh, I've got my bag of potatoes, I want some of your tomatoes, but they're not ready, I'll come back in a week. No, the deal is done there and then, because otherwise you're creating a debt. You either give freely, or you make an exchange, or you don't do it at all. So it's a mindset that needs to change. We need a basic understanding of money, currency, and credit, which is all for free on my channel. It's all been broken down. You can buy the book, but it's all there for free. People need to start challenging it. People need to actually care, because it's our children and grandchildren who are going to get the ramifications of this debt slavery. Like I've gone into the housing crisis. You know, we might just get through it and have some kind of quality in life, but there's no future. The whole of the world's being sold up, asset stripped. So we're all going to be slaves to this corporate system. But in Revelation in the Bible, you know, I'm not a Christian, but in Revelation in the Bible, it talks about this satanic system, Babylon the Great, falling in 1 hour. If you take away this evil ability to trade globally, you completely taken away their power. If we bring back the idea of the nation state, yeah, which isn't racist, it's nothing to do with race, it's the nation state. The ability for a people in a certain area to own their own land and resources and infrastructure and create their own society, yeah, without any outside influence. If we bring back armed neutrality, so nobody signs up for the military unless you're just going to stay in your own land to defend your own land. So I did say I was going to ramble on this video, so I am rambling. There has to be a coherent movement of people that understand the monetary system. Like I say, oh, we need gold, we need Bitcoin, or banks create money. It's not coherent. You have to go back into the foundation, and it's not actually complicated, as I found out. What is complicated is the economics of a banking mafia and these hedge funds and how they make money. And I forced myself a year ago to delve into these asset-backed securities. It was all criminal all along, but nobody's challenging it. That they shouldn't be able to sell debt when it's created as credit. Shouldn't be allowed, because nobody understands it. So you can't get a coherent movement apart from people just complaining. We should create our own money. Yeah, but how are you going to do that? How's that going to work? Watch the videos. I don't know who out there would create a movement, but it's a little bit like understanding health and how people go from the medical profession through all these things to get to like Patrick's level of health is natural and free. You just have to take away the causes of disease. There's lots of layers, and people can't get to that last layer in health. People are getting nowhere near understanding money, currency, credit, and economy. There's nothing out. There's absolutely nothing out there. It's like Muppets like Gary's Economics, and people just saying, oh, the litre ripping us off. Yeah, but how are they doing it? What's your solution? If you haven't got a solution, just what's the point? A coherent movement for monetary reform is needed. That's it.